Well, folks, we are at the top of the hour. We usually like to give people a minute to have a little buffer time with their clocks. And, not everybody's running on precise digital time. So,
in spite of all of our digital input right now.
Yes, and of course, and then getting everything hooked up. It's like, no, wait, I didn't know I had to do that. And how come I can't hear anything? Oh, wait, I better call in on the telephone.
Yep.
And so we'll give it just a minute more, and then away we'll go. And I want people, if they're coming in and they don't have sound, I want them to see where the dial-in is.
Yep, good point. Is the tea done? Are you still hearing that whistling? Because I don't hear anything.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it's good. I think it's an electronic thing that's happening.
Very possible.
If nobody's tea has been ready for that long.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything at all about the wind just going from one ear through your brain through the other, Fred. I wasn't going to say that at all.
No, good. I'm glad you didn't.
Or maybe it was my brain. Who knows?
So this is where we are. We go to the home page here.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to get started. Welcome everyone to 90 Days and Beyond Practice Marketing and Operational Strategies for the New Age of Dentistry, the one we're in right now. I'm Fred Joyal, and this is Dr. Gerilyn Alfe, who will be co-hosting me, and this is really her thing. I'm really the co-pilot here because she's the experienced dentist. She's not just a DMD, but she also got her MBA along the way. She's owned a practice for over 25 years, and she's also now working as a Fortune Management Executive Coach, but she's been speaking, writing, and a hands-on instructor in very high demand for over 20 years. So she's the brains of the duo, and I'm the cheap marketing hustler, or some variation of that. I'm the outside man, outside the clinical world. But she's got a tremendous amount of value that she's going to bring to you in these 2 hours, and we're going to do 90 minutes and leave a lot of room for Q&A. And this is me.
Okay, so let me return the favor and introduce Fred. For those of you who don't know Fred, and I don't know who of you that could possibly be, because Fred's been immersed in marketing for so many years and has brought so much of his wealth of knowledge to the field of dentistry, and we are extraordinarily grateful for that. He's the co-founder of 1-800-Dentist, and he also authored 2 best-selling books, Everything is Marketing, The Ultimate Strategy for Dental Practice Growth, and Becoming Remarkable, How to Create a Dental Practice That Everyone Talks About. Fred is considered one of the top 10 industry experts on patient marketing and consumer behavior. And these are his words, not mine. He told me he's an avid cyclist, an average tennis player, and an even worse golfer. I share that with you, Fred. I'm a lousy golfer. I
like walking around on the lawns, but that's more of what it is for me.
Yeah.
And I can go through 40 or 50 balls in 18 holes very easily. So.
Oh, yeah. I probably would double that.
So let's talk about what we're going to cover today, Gerilyn. We're going to come at this from 2 angles. The business side of dentistry and the marketing side of the business side. And there'll be some clinical ideas certainly along the way because of Gerilyn's vast experience. But Gerilyn, give us a sense of what we're really presenting here today.
Sure, thanks, Fred. We have to remember that as the dental practice owner, we are wearing 3 different hats. We are leaders of our practice, of our teams. We are CEOs of our small businesses, and we're also clinical directors of our practice. Now, we as dentists tend to focus mostly on being the clinical director, and that makes sense because that's our comfortable place, right? That's where we received the vast amount of experience in dental school and learning, even in our CE courses, usually after graduation. I want to stress that it's vital for you to become uber comfortable with the other two roles now more than ever. As the leader, you've got to keep a positive mindset and communicate clearly and calmly with your team and your patients. This is a time of great uncertainty for everybody, and we know that that raises stress levels for everyone. It is your job to be the voice of reason throughout all of this craziness that's going on. And as the CEO, you've got to continuously make smart business decisions so your practice can survive and even thrive in the very near future. And we're going to have a number of ways that you can start to implement your 90-day plan that is going to carry you through this, no matter where you are in the cycle, if you've already been open or you're just starting to open or you're planning to open. All of the things that we're going to talk about, you can take into your practice, personalize it, and make your transition much more easy on you, your team, and your patients. So now I'm going to turn this back to Fred because he is the marketing guru here, and he's going to share his best tips and tricks so you can be the best leader and CEO of your practice, because being the chief marketing officer is also one of the hats that you know you have to wear.
Yes, that's like it or not. So one of the things we wanted to do is just get a sense of where you are out there. So we're going to do a couple of quick polls that'll tell us, there it is. I'm going to ask a question here. I think you can you see both questions?
I can, yep.
Okay. So take a minute and click on your responses here, and just because we'd like to know, because some of them are able to open depending on the state you're in, even in the county a lot of times. Some of you are open for emergencies. Some of you are saying, you know, I don't know when I'll open, I don't know when I'll feel safe or when my team feels safe. And so we're racking up some answers here, and I'm getting a trend certainly. Can you see the results?
I can.
I can see the results. That's what I was hoping everybody could see. I love it when polls take shape before your eyes, because then you know how to vote, because you know you want to pick the winner. You know.
Oh, so it's like every other voting.
So this is good. There's a lot of confidence about reopening your practice, and most of you are at least open for emergencies, and so I think we've got a good sense of this now. So we're gonna end this poll.
Okay, Fred, they can't see the polls, just so that you know.
So
if they can't see it, you can share them.
Okay. Can they see them now?
Can someone type in the chat box and let us know if you can see? Yes. Thank you, Phil.
No. Okay. Great. Yes, that's right. I forget Gerilyn as co-pilot can see everything. So yeah. So this is how people are looking at it. Most people are open for emergencies, and most of you are fairly confident about opening up, which is good. You know, that's what we would hope, but we want you to be super confident when you're done with this. We want you to feel like you're not just working your way through this and working it out, but working your way up from this. So let's talk about what you're going to need to be doing and thinking about. And some of what we're talking about is very high-minded, and some of it's very tactical. I think you're going to find both Gerilyn and I are coming at this change that we're all facing from both of those angles. And you know, my premise is you have to create a remarkable patient experience to grow your dental practice and have a solid practice. And that is, I use that word remarkable in a very specific way, in that people can't resist talking about you. And now with the people apprehensive about everything in life, their money, their health, their future, their job, and their safety in healthcare environments, being a remarkable practice that gives a remarkable patient experience is more important than ever. To get people to come back to the dentist, to get them to start accepting treatment, to get them to see the advantages of taking care of their teeth. This is going to be a challenge, but it's also, it's going to be presented as a terrific opportunity. That's what I'm really seeing, is this has been presented to us in a way where we can really take advantage of it. So what doctors are asking me is, they're saying, look, I've stopped all of my advertising, but what should my message be to my dentist, to the consumer, to my patients and to the public? And it's very simple. There's two messages. One of them, kind of obvious, but critical, is patient safety. We want to help them understand that you have gone to great lengths to make your practice safe to come and get treated. And because they're more than ever, they're going to be concerned about it. And actually, in a study that we did, my company, 800 Dentists, did a few years ago, we surveyed patients and on what was most important in a dental practice. And back then, they said, number 4 was cleanliness. Okay, number 4 was, how will you take my insurance? But by 4th, cleanliness was a real factor. Imagine how much more important that is now to people.
Number 1.
Yeah, they are very serious about it. So we have to, and this is an opportunity to show them that really you've been way ahead of this sterilization and cross, contamination control long before this, and now you're stepping up your game. And so let patients know, let them see the lengths that you go to make your practice safe. Show them that the sterilization room will explain how that everything is autoclaved between every patient, and say, you remember when you came in here and we had plastic all over everything and we're wearing all of this stuff? That was before. We've added to that now. There's so much more that we can tell them that we're doing that's going to relax them. And you're going to have to change your systems. Gerilyn, you're going to talk some more about that later, right? So I want to make sure they know that when I talk about this, I'm talking about it from a marketing standpoint. Gerilyn's going to talk about the very practical execution of this in your practice. But it's really important to use all of the tools available to you to let your patients know that, one, you're here for them, and that you have gone to these great lengths. And you can do it on your website. You should be doing it through email. You should be emailing all of your patients with a simple, clear message that we have strong measures in place, as well as new procedures, new systems, new PPEs, and policies, and everything from how you schedule to how many people are in the waiting room. All of these things are being considered now by us to make it so that this is a safe place for you. And if you've added technology, or if you have technology that reduces the amount of time that a patient is in the practice. I always look at technology from a marketing standpoint. To me, CEREC was a good, or CAD CAM, whatever CAD CAM you would use to do a single visit restoration, was a good marketing message before. Now it's a fantastic marketing message. Now you have a way to say, look, you're going to be here half the time. We have technology to eliminate a visit to this practice. Whatever technology you can use that you've incorporated into the practice to make that possible, something to brag about, something to tell them about.
And that's true, Fred, because sorry to interrupt, but
it's all right. No, I want to show this video, but I want to hear what you have to say.
there are a couple of things I wanted to talk about just at this very moment. Is for any of you who is not currently doing new patient visits, which we're probably not going to be doing for a period of time, because we do have specific protocols that we've rolled out through Fortune where we give you guidelines on how is this new visit going to happen for all of your patients. But once things start to get a little bit more normal and you can go back to doing new patient tours, that is one area that we may have glossed over in the past, what the sterilization area was. I guarantee you that patients are going to be wanting to know more and more about that. And as you said, with technology in the practice, whether you're using lasers or CAD/CAM or digital extraoral technology, those are going to be really important things for patients as well. Lasers are tremendously important because they're going to reduce aerosol production, which is what everybody's worried about. As Fred said, with CAD/CAM, being able to take a 2-visit procedure spanned out over 2 to 3 weeks and having it taken care of in one, think of the time and money that it saves, not just you as the practice, but also the patient. They don't have to worry about coming in 2 different times. So all of those things, the things that make your practice more efficient, are also the things that you should be, as Fred said, you know, screaming it from the rooftops. This is part of your marketing, and it's to provide the best experience to your patients.
Yeah, and if you're considering this technology, now's the time to incorporate it and learn it, make it part of the fabric of your practice, because your uniqueness as a safer, more efficient, faster visit is going to be your advanced marketing message. That's going to make you more unique, more remarkable. This is a video that a team sent out to their patients because they're all still isolated, and I want to see if I want to play it for you. Video always plays a little funny on webinars, so and I'm going to give it my best shot and see how you do.
Hi, this is a quick message from our team.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to take a minute to say that I've missed you guys, and I can't wait to get back to work. I've enjoyed spending the time with this big goofball here. I love what I do, and I can't wait to get back. Hope to see you all soon.
Hi, and I just want to say, although the office is still closed, we are still reachable by phone if you have a dental emergency.
Hi, I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. Please remember the importance of your daily oral hygiene. Brushing, flossing, and using a mouth rinse daily will keep your mouth and your immune system healthy. Take care. I miss you. Can't wait to see you.
She must be the hygienist.
And we're so excited to be opening in the near future. And we can't wait to hear about all the hobbies that you guys picked up in the meantime. Stay brushing and flossing.
Hello, everyone. Our sterilization is impeccable. We'll be heightening our sterilization methods to keep you safe when you visit our office.
Hi, everyone. Good nutrition, daily exercise, and a good night's sleep helps the immune system. If you can, use this time to eat healthier and exercise more.
And we can't wait to get back to the office and see you again. Take care of your beautiful smiles. 2, 3.
Awesome.
Isn't that, I mean, it's such a great combination of a very personal, warm message about how much you miss the patients, but also, you know, our safety standards are impeccable. That they made sure they worked that in, and make sure you're brushing your teeth in the meantime. The messaging was really wonderful, and a perfect example of how to put out that remarkable communication to your patient base. The other message, remember I said there were 2 marketing messages, one being safety. The second one is this golden opportunity to take advantage of the fact that people are thinking about their immune system much more than they ever have. And because they know that that's the reason why a lot of them are either not getting the virus, or if they get it, they're getting over it fairly quickly, or at least surviving it. And so this focus has shifted to a much greater consciousness. And this is our opportunity to really reinforce that the mouth is an essential part of their overall health. The health of their soft and hard tissue in their mouth is absolutely essential to their immune system and protecting themselves and not having that vulnerability. We have a chance, instead of having to drive this message home to people who didn't want to hear it, now they're going to want to hear it. We're going to be able to say, you understand, of course, that your respiratory system, your mouth, all of this is the easiest way for infection to get in. If you're already fighting infection in your body with gum disease or something like that, your immune system is impaired. This is why it's so important to take care of your teeth. Be incredibly consistent on getting your teeth cleaned. We want, when we say you should come in every 4 months, that's what you should be doing. We're not doing it because we just want you to come in more often. We're doing it because we know that that's what your teeth need. 6 months is an average of how often people should be in. We're telling you what you should be. I personally go every 3 months because of the nature of my gums and the nature of my age. And I want all my teeth, and I want really easy prophies, you know, so I'd like to keep it that way. So this is just a great opportunity to capitalize on this message in the same way, in your email messages, on your website, in your social media, in all of your outlets that you use. Another really,
Fred, what we used to say in my office was bleeding gums may be normal, but they're not healthy. And people would freak out. You know, if you think about how much surface area your gums actually cover, it's about the size of the inside of your forearm. And wouldn't you freak out if every time you washed your arm, it bled? So why do you not think it's weird that when you clean your mouth, your gums bleed? There's no other part of your body that happens and you accept as normal.
If you just don't floss, they won't bleed.
Oh, there you go. Right. Yes.
So that's the problem, is jamming that string into this is what's causing the bleeding.
Right.
Right. So yeah, and right now more than ever, and you know, I want to go back and say, when you focus on safety as a message, that message is going to reverberate through your team as well. One, your team has to be projecting that message, but you as the leader talking and saying that your emphasis on safety is high is the reason your team is going to feel comfortable, and they're going to project that confidence. You have to be confident about it, and they have to be confident about it. And when people are in an apprehensive state and they come into an environment where the practitioners are confident, everybody working there is confident about what they're doing, what they're offering, and the safety that they're offering, and the value that they're offering. I mean, let's face it, the value of dentistry needs to be elevated in virtually everybody's mind. This is our opportunity to do that. And we can, with much greater confidence, say, look, this is probably the safest place you're going to go all year. And we are going to help protect your immune system, which is going to keep you healthier. And this is going to be, forget COVID-19, that thing may come and go. You want a strong immune system, period, for a long, long time, like your whole life. And this is one of the great things that projects that sort of confidence in a single image, is the practice. This practice just put on their PPEs and took a picture, put it out on Facebook to let their patients know that we're here and ready for you. And it's a safe environment, but you know, we're still, you know, it's not that, you know, it always helps if dentistry is a little bit more of a fun environment than just a pure clinical environment. it makes a big difference in how people respond. And you can do this with your team. My idea of your Facebook profile picture, that page, that panoramic picture, should be the whole team in PPEs. I mean, what could be more assuring? You know, you can be in funny poses, but you're saying we're gloved up, masked up, shielded up, and ready. And we're coming into a different world as we talk about, you know, marketing and advertising your practice. People are reevaluating how they're spending money. Some of them are reevaluating because they have to, but a lot of them are taking a hard look at, like, wow, I thought that was so important to me to spend money on that, and it's just not that important. Or I thought that was, you know, that I had so much money that I could do whatever I wanted. Now they're focusing on what's bringing real value to them more and more, as maybe their budget gets tighter, as they're working more and more from home. And just as a side note, guess what? A whole lot of people are going to turn into people who either work from home or end up being independent contractors. You know what that means? No health plan, no dental coverage. So having something like an internal membership plan is going to be a good marketing tool, as well as a good service to offer your patients. And the opportunity is blossoming right now. That's a classic example of within every one of these crises is opportunities everywhere. So this is our chance to become that bigger priority by the messaging that we offer, because we say we are valuable towards not just your appearance, but your health. But people are going to be thinking about their appearance. You know, we've had to cut back on our grooming considerably. I mean, in California right now, we're starting to come back on all sorts of businesses, but not the hair salons and the nail salons. So, you know, we have half the blondes in California that we used to have. Very, very disturbing to us who are very used to that appearance. And so people are going to be also interested once again in Invisalign, or any other type of aligner. They're going to be interested in veneers, as well as implants. You know, that reprioritization to say, geez, what's a better investment? You know, a Las Vegas vacation where the money's all gone, or dental implants where now I can eat forever, whatever I want, much more comfortably, and maintain my bone tissue and the general health of my mouth. I mean, we have so many good messages to put out there that make them look good and be healthy. I mean, we're a tremendous combination of value to people. And so we want to make sure that message gets out there, and know that the opportunities are going to be there. And so doctors are asking me, like, okay, I've stopped advertising. I stopped doing Google AdWords.
The time to do it.
Yeah. So
which of your patients had been traveling for a very long period of time and were gone for months on end, and now are not doing that for work, and now are going to be able to commit to coming in for Invisalign visits or having their implants taken care of. So these are things you have to start thinking, as Fred said, yes, this can be viewed as a crisis. The dentists that are going to thrive through this are looking at this as opportunities, and they are thinking, well, it may be true that there are some patients who are going to have tighter finances, but I know there are also a number of patients out there who are going to have much more freedom in their schedules and freedom with their time to be able to start coming in and getting their dental work done. I know after the 2008 crisis, my cosmetic cases actually went up for a year and a half, because I had a lot of patients that were in finance who either got laid off or had some changes in their job. And all they said constantly was, Dr. Alfe, I finally have the time to do this. So let's get it done now.
Yes, very interesting. And that's what the data shows, is that for everyone that's saying, I can't afford to do something right now, there's people who are saying, this is more important than ever, and this is what I want to spend my money on, and I don't want to wait anymore. they've had time to look in the mirror a lot more, let's
A
say,
lot.
or whatever it is. It's just like I said, this reprioritization. We can help them prioritize to something of long-term value. What I try to remind practices is this simple fact that if somebody needs 10, 15, 20, $30,000 worth of dentistry, there's no better way to invest that money. There is no longer term value in an investment that would affect every smile, every meal, every kiss, every conversation for the rest of their life. That's an enormous value. And people don't have buyer's remorse with dentistry. They have anxiety about it. They have issues about the cost of it sometimes, but you're never going to have an implant patient come back and go, I wish I had that money and still had dentures. That would be so much better. It's nothing but appreciation afterwards. So that is the greatest indicator of the real value that we bring. And so when do we start promoting ourselves? We have to be looking at the marketplace, what it's doing, what your area is doing, and plan on coming back. You should be standing down on virtually all of your advertising right now, the paid advertising. But you're going to need to strategize and be fluid in your strategy going forward, because there will be moments where you want to jump in. There will be indicators that it is time for you to promote your practice, because it may be cheaper. There may be less competition for bidding on AdWords. There may be newspapers, even in magazines, that are offering you a tremendous opportunity to advertise for almost nothing, where you would not even normally consider advertising in them. But sometimes the deal is so good. I mean, when I ran 800 dentists, they would call us because we always had spare money to inject into TV at the last minute. And they would call us, the station would call us, Oprah's network would call us and say, somebody just dropped out. Do you want to take, a 30-second spot at the end of each episode for the rest of the week for 20 cents on the dollar? And it would be like, heck yeah, Oprah, I'll take all you got. I'll take the whole show. But you're going to have opportunities that present themselves. But it's whatever you do, I hope you've learned a lot about this, but understand that practice marketing is very regional, is very local. What your neighborhood is doing, what your patient base is interested in, will be completely different 5 or 10 miles away. In some parts of the country, that may be 15 or 20 miles away. In some parts of LA, that may be 2 or 3 miles away. The difference between a Beverly Hills practice and a Beverly Hills adjacent, which is one of the neighborhoods they call it, because they would like to add Beverly Hills to their name, but it's not. It's actually called Palms. The difference is patients don't go downscale to offices. They go upscale generally to offices. So what you have to know what your patient base is doing. And some of that is going back and looking at your numbers, which I'll talk about. But know that all the Google advertising and the Facebook advertising and direct mail and regional print even that you do, even cable TV is all very regionalized now, and you can take advantage of that. But don't believe that there's nothing true for a whole city. It's neighborhood by neighborhood. But there's one thing that hopefully you didn't stop spending on, and that you should never stop spending on, which is your SEO. SEO is something that now, and I wouldn't have said this 5 years ago, this wasn't true 5 years ago, but you constantly have to be making adjustments in your SEO in order to keep it alive, to keep it fresh, to keep your ranking up. And I think what has happened is a lot of practices don't even have a good gauge of of what their SEO is doing relative to their competition. And again, it's local. What's happening locally? How are people ranking relative to you in an organic search, in a Google search? So SEO is a slow build up, and if you shut it off, it declines quickly, and then it's another slow build up. You want to keep it high now. So if you've somehow shut it off, if you have somebody that's maintaining your SEO, go right back and sign back up, turn it right back on, because you don't want to lose a day of that. And then it's going to be some simple things like your environment beyond the clinical side of it. What happens when people walk into the practice? Are they going to be, for one, I'm going to be looking at surfaces differently than I ever did before. I'm going to look when I go in a public place, I'm going to look at upholstered furniture and say, how are they cleaning this? How could they possibly clean this every night or between users or something like that? So you're going to have to take a hard look at your physical environment, every aspect of your physical environment, and maybe make some changes so that people do feel comfortable and so that you can clean it very easily.
And when Fred and I were going,
I lost your volume, Gerilyn.
we went to visit your Nana, there was the nice living room that nobody went into. You only went in there for Catholic holidays and after weddings or funerals. And in spite of the fact that no one went in it, what was all the furniture covered in? Plastic over everything, because they wanted to keep that nice and clean. So I was laughing when I saw that photo and thinking, well, if you're Sicilian and you grew up like that, you'd be thinking nothing at all about covering all that in plastic. So you have to think about what kind of surfaces do you have in your reception area, and then if it's not feasible to replace that with perhaps plastic chairs or metal chairs that'll be easier to clean, I think it's going to be perfectly acceptable to take some of your chair covers that you use for clinical and drape them over the chairs that are in your reception area.
Yeah, it's just one more comfort factor. And now's the time to take a hard look at all of your digital online presence. I mean, I see a lot of websites that need a lot of work. And if you're promoting yourself, the cornerstone of your practice is your website. And it has to function a certain way. It has to have great SEO being built and adjusted, because the SEO changes 40 or 50 times a month now. But people are looking for certain things. And your whole presence, I call it your digital marketing triangle, all works together, because everyone has the option to go to any one of three places. They can read reviews on Yelp, they can look on Facebook, and they can do a search for your website on Google. So, and they will gather information from any and all of those in choosing a dentist. Now, your new message of safety and strong immune system, and we have these great treatments to make you look better and give you longer lasting teeth, all have to work well in this environment. You need to tune up all of these things now, because if you haven't, some doctors have used this time to do exactly that. I know hundreds and hundreds of doctors completely rebuilding their website because right now they had no traffic. So they went like, this is great. This is perfect time to just rework it, because it takes a month or two or sometimes 3 to redo your website. Somebody needs to be responsible for this in your practice. If it's not you as the dentist, it's a team member that you've assigned this to. But this has to work in an integrated fashion and be attended to on a regular basis. And this is an example of a terrific website that has a very clear message. This is a Beverly Hills dentist. And I think if you look at it for a few seconds, what's the message here, Gerilyn?
Money, money, money. It's going to cost me to go in there.
Exactly. He is using this as a filter to say, don't look for cheap dentistry here. This is expensive dentistry, okay? And some people want expensive dentistry. So and so he's using it not just to have a great looking website with a great message, but to present his practice as it really is. Your message has to match your website. And so his matches, he's got great before and after pictures, and he's going to charge a premium for everything that he does. And if you say, is it covered by my insurance? He's going to go, I don't understand the question. So I'm not saying this should be your website. I'm saying your website needs to have this great modern look, but project your message, what the tone is that you want to put out there about your practice and the look and feel of the practice that you offer. I gotta get it to stop. And that means go out and take some good pictures of the practice, of the team. And when you get a photographer, the photographer does video and photography with the same camera. Get a nice tour shot of the practice. It's showing the sterilization room and all of the other procedures and technology that you have, and take some great pictures. Now that you can, within the next few weeks, you'll all be able to get haircuts again, and go get some pictures done, because you're going to use those everywhere. They make all the difference in your Yelp and Google profile and your website and your social media. The good photography is very impactful. And then lastly, I want you to take a look at last year, and because a lot of people spent money and said, well, we're spending this much money. And a friend of mine spending $25,000 a month in advertising. And I said, well, what's working? What works best? Well, I don't know. Well, how many patients you're getting? Well, a lot. I'm like, that's not really accurate information for, $350,000 a year or whatever the heck you're spending. I said, now's the time to go look at your results. What channels were paying off? What weren't? The three things you want to know. How many patients am I getting? What did it cost me to get those patients? Are by channel, and are they the right kind of patients for my practice? Because one channel may work, it may flood your practice with new patients, but you're doing $120 average on those patients in production all year. And another channel may be half as many patients or a third, but 5 times the production. So you need to examine those numbers that are all there in your PMS. They're in there, and a practice coach can take you through that and help you see all of that. And you need to look at what your competition's doing now, especially. What are they offering? Are they offering discounts? They have expanded their hours? Like Aspen has been doing free prophies for a couple of years, as far as I know, just to attract patients. You need to see what people are doing in your area. So, and that's going to determine when you come out too. And also, if a lot of people have stopped advertising, that may be the perfect time to come in and advertise. As I said, it may be cheaper to bid on AdWords than ever before. This is my rule. If everybody's going in one direction in advertising, go in the other direction. And if they've stood down, it may be the perfect time to start investing. And as long as you're tracking, you know where to spend more and more and more. And never forget how important your team is to your marketing. Your marketing relies on them, because marketing is everything that they experience in the practice. Nothing that a patient experiences is neutral. It either increases or decreases case acceptance, always. So your team is responsible for creating that trust, that value. So help them, train them, empower them, but give them the confidence to know that what you offer is an amazing thing to patients. And always project something positive to your team, to your patient base, to your community. I love what people were doing very creatively while they were sheltering at home. to let their patients know that they cared about them. And even something silly like this is back in Thailand, that the motorcycle cops were wearing masks, and people said, geez, it's kind of frightening when they do that. So they put smiles on them. And it changes the whole feeling of it. And that's, decorating your PPEs is going to work fine for people. It's going to relax people. We want relaxed people in the office. People who are anxious and apprehensive don't accept treatment at anywhere near that level. And finally, I find this such an important message, because it's all the successful people I know, and most of the successful people I know are outside of dentistry. They all have somebody coaching them all the time. Now, we see athletes do it, and you don't see, Serena Williams doesn't say, oh, I won Wimbledon, I can finally get rid of my coach. Or I'm in a slump, I need to stop spending money on a coach, I need to save money. No, they have a coach. The guy on the left here is the CEO of Google for 15 years. He had a personal coach. So if he had a personal coach that he turned to every day, why don't you? Why are you trying to go it alone, especially now when there's so much support that you can get from the right people? And that, and Gerilyn's going to show you some of the amazing things that Fortune is doing, because they're a large enough organization where they have vast resources. They're the largest consulting company in the country. They have me, first of all, on their board, which, that sounds like I'm bragging, but I mean, we have one of the largest law firms in dentistry in the country as part of the executive team. All of these resources, not to mention more than 100 coaches gathering information from over 1,000 practices, helping them to thrive and navigate the shifts. Because a lot of what we're helping people with, the message changes from week to week. So
Day to day.
Anybody who wants to get better has a coach and never thinks about not having a coach. But also, if there's anything that we've learned in these past few months, this is it. Your most essential life skill going forward is going to be your adaptability. You are going to have to change with the times. You are going to have to be resilient when there's a downturn. We've had the longest bull market in the history of the country. It had to end. There's nothing unusual about it ending. Is it just unusual about how it ended? But we don't get stronger from being comfortable. We get stronger from what we strain against. This time can make us stronger, smarter, more resilient if we choose to adapt. And I just very quickly just want to mention that what I'm doing for some practices who are trying to understand where they are in their marketing, I'm decoding their marketing. I'm doing a deep drill down into their marketing, looking at everything that's happening online, looking at all of their tracking numbers, what their ROI is, what their neighborhood is like, and what their competition is doing, what their budget should be. If you want that for your practice, you can go to my website and get it, fredjoyal.com. This can help you to make sound investments with your money going forward, month by month, year by. We'll create a long-term strategy. I'm going to work with a few high-end practices on a month-to-month basis, but for any practice, I'm going to decode what's going on for just $697. So that's my commercial portion of the program. But I just wanted you to know that's available, because I want you to be spending your money in a smart way going forward and learn from the numbers that you've accumulated.
And being able to take advantage of that, Fred, especially right now where the practices are a bit slower and they can really start to harshly evaluate how their marketing is doing and be able to get guidance from you on that. This is going to pay itself off probably within your first patient that comes through the door after this. And then it's only going to exponentially add to your bottom line.
Yeah, this shouldn't be considered something expensive to do at all. This, right. As you say, this could pay for itself with the next phone call. that happens in the practice. But my last message to you before we bring on the star of our show is that positivity is more contagious than COVID-19. Positivity is incredibly contagious. It's even measured scientifically. The hormones change in your body when you are positive, and the hormones change in other people's bodies when you are positive. This makes an enormous difference. If you want, if people say, well, I don't know what to do, it's like, I know what to do. Be more positive. Because of course, life is hard, life is challenging. We're living a really interesting time, and we will learn from it, we will grow from it, and we will get smarter and treasure things that we didn't, and savor things that we didn't before, and probably take better care of ourselves. And people, I think, will value dentistry more than ever before. And so, without further ado, Dr. Gerilyn Alfe, please.
Thank you. So Fred, are we going to switch over now?
Yes, I'm gonna drop out. I'm gonna stop sharing. I think you can share, right? I think you can just jump right in and you're, yes. Look at the Zoom masters.
You know, in Fortune, we always say what's great about this, especially when you're looking at a challenging situation. And so what I've been saying is great about this is I've become really good at Zoom. And, you know, the great thing is it's also allowing me to spread our market base, because now I'm able to work with clients literally not even just all over the country, but in other countries. So it's been wonderful to be able to help so many more people because of the facts that we're getting more adapted here. So I want to take just a couple of minutes to talk about what makes a Fortune management coach different from a typical dental consultant, because some of you that are on this webinar, you've heard of Fortune, and others, you may have heard of us, but you're not really sure exactly what we do and how are we different from a number of other companies that are out there. Well, as a Fortune management coach, we wear basically 3 hats. We work as an executive coach, as a key business strategist, and as a practice management specialist. Most dental practice consulting firms, they focus on the practice management side, which is good and important, and we do too. That's to ensure that you've got systems and protocols in place, that your team is well trained, that your schedule is manageable, and that you don't come home exhausted at the end of the day, and that you can do the production that you want. Most dental consulting firms stop there. As Fortune management coaches, we also go into the depths of being a key business strategist and evaluating the 5 business engines that are vital for a successful practice. And when we're wearing our executive coach hat, that's when we are sometimes your cheerleader, when you need somebody to help pull you up by your bootstraps. And then sometimes we're the ones who are going to kick you in the butt and hold the mirror up to you and say, you need to be accountable for this. We discussed this. You told me this was going to happen. You have to take responsibility for this too. And I can't think of any other company that's out there that does these 3 facets to the degree that we do at Fortune. And one of the things that makes us so different is that we are client focused. We're not systems focused. We are focused on our client. We want to find out from our doctor, what do you want for your practice? What is your vision for your practice and your life? And that's where we start, because all of these engines are going to affect how well you're going to reach your vision. So when I start working with a client and we talk about what's your vision for your practice and your life, I want you to get as specific as possible. I want you to think about, what kind of dentistry do I want to do? What do I want my team to look like? What is my facility going to look like, feel like, smell like? How much money do I want to make? How many days a week do I want to work? How much longer do I want to work? What's that going to look like? You can't get patients to come in
Gerilyn, for some reason, we're losing your sound. So I'm gonna, I don't know if we need to, but I would start over on your vision, because that's when we lost you.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can't. That was perfect the first time. I can't redo it. No, I'm kidding.
All right, well, I remember it. I remember even though I couldn't hear it. So I'll do it for you. No.
Sure. So what I was saying, can you hear me at this point?
Yes.
Okay. So what I was saying is that.
Oh, this is, so it's actually the idea won't be transmitted. That's as soon as you start to express the idea, then the sound goes out. So.
Wow, what is going on with our connection here?
Yes, because otherwise you're very strong.
Okay.
Got any other apps open on your computer?
Possibly. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. We paused for technical difficulties.
Yes.
But these are the 5 engines that run a dental practice, and Fortune works in each one of the areas and focuses on whichever one is most important at that time for the practice. But it always starts with what the vision is for the practice. They sit down with you and say, what is it that you want? What is important to you? Where do you want to be? What type of practice do you want? What type of lifestyle do you want? And then they examine what's working and what's not working in practice and fix it in sequence so that the practice can continue to thrive and grow, but do it in a systematic step-by-step way based on the analytics that they can do that tell them that relative to other practices, maybe that your case acceptance is off by 10 or 15 or 20%, or your hygiene scheduling is off completely, or your AR is out of control.
Out of whack, yeah.
Yeah, we hear you now.
Okay, beautiful. And yeah, what I was talking about was when you are figuring out your vision, you have to take all of those things into consideration. Get that as crystal clear as possible. And then as the coach, part of my job is to drill down into all of those areas and see if what you're telling me is your biggest challenge. Is it really being caused by the thing that you're thinking about? Because sometimes there are other things happening that we have blind spots about. And so that's part of our job as your coach, is to help you see those blind spots and then start to work through those. Because I don't care how good of a clinician you are, if all of these systems are not working well, you're never going to have a successful practice. Did that come through okay?
Yes, it was beautiful.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so throughout the rest of my presentation, I'm going to be touching on a number of areas of Fortune's 90-day practice recovery acceleration program. This is something that is unique. I don't know of any other company that has brought our brain trust of 110 coaches and thousands of doctors that we're working with together. In addition to, as Fred said, all of our affiliate partners. We work with some of the best accountants, attorneys, marketing guys, HR people, to really try to figure out what can we do to help all of our doctors get through this phase with as little pain as possible and get them ready to ramp up once things start to calm down. Because your success through this is going to determine what your success is going to be like when you're done. Your attitude about, yes, there are more challenges than we've had in the past. And I know that there are also great opportunities that are coming down the pike, and I need to start looking for those now. And
Oh, we lost you again. We lost you again. This is crazy. Hang on just a second. We'll, I'm gonna.
because everybody's coming in.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shut off my video.
Okay.
And see if I think it's a bandwidth thing on your side, but I'm going to shut my video off and see if it helps. Because Nick Clausen is tired of looking at me, he said, and so he wants me off screen.
I doubt that. Although I do know Nick, so.
Yeah. So, all right. So proceed.
Okay. So, yeah, as I was saying, everybody's at a different point. Either they've already started back or they kind of never stopped working, or they're just getting ready to start, or they're not starting for a while still. Here in Illinois, our shelter in place order is until May 31st. So depending upon where you are, the great thing about our program is that it's robust and adaptable for any dentist, no matter where you are in this timeline. We can work with you if you're already into the execution phase. We can blow through the planning part and jump right in wherever you are right now. Am I doing okay, Fred?
Yep.
Okay, I'm just gonna check in like every couple of slides just in case.
I'll jump in as soon as you go mute.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, just jump in and tell me, hey, for once, Gerilyn, you're quiet. So here I just want to quickly talk about your 90-day cash flow plan. Now, I'm hoping and guessing that most of you have already developed your budget. You've gone through your business and your personal expenses, broken them down into your 3 categories of fixed, variable, and elective. And you should be revisiting this at least every other week or so, because it is going to change once you get back into practice and once you start practicing more full swing, right? Because some of the things that are going to be very variable, especially let's talk about salaries, payroll. We know that most practices are going to be a little bit slower when they start to open up, which means that you probably are not bringing your entire team back at once. And I'm going to talk in more detail about that later, how you can do that. The good thing is that that's going to decrease your payroll. Hopefully your employees are already collecting unemployment insurance, so you don't have to worry about them not being able to pay their bills. And the good thing is it'll give you a little bit more freedom in your cash flow, because we know that your revenues are going to take a little while to ramp back up again. So I want you to just view all of these, see which of them you can tweak so that you can have a little bit more liquidity. You've probably already thought of a number of these potential cash sources. And if you haven't, just take a quick screenshot of this if you'd like. One of the things I found really interesting through all of this is that, for instance, the government, for once, is making some accommodations for us and allowing us to withdraw money from our retirement plans. Now, there are stipulations for that, but in general, we're able to do that without penalty. And I think as long as we refund it, is it within 3 years, Fred, I think?
2.
Okay.
The SBA loan is 2 years right now.
No, if you withdrew money from your retirement plan.
Oh, no, that I don't know the answer to.
Okay, so that kind of leads into the fact that even though I'm an executive coach with Fortune, I want to stress I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney or a financial planner or an HR specialist. I'm discussing with all of you the guidelines that our leadership from Fortune has culminated together, like I said, with all of the other affiliate partners we have, and we're working off of the most up-to-date and most vetted and verifiable information. That being said, it is still always your responsibility to check with your own brain trust, your accountant, attorney, HR specialist, financial planner, tax planner, etc. Make sure that the decisions that you're making for your practice are legal and safe. And these are just some other ideas for you to see about where you might be able to plumb some more cash if you need it.
But Fortune is going to be there with the latest information. We have been pumping out information on a weekly basis, as every, the PPP must have changed 14 times.
Right.
And I think it's not done changing as they keep running out of money. Some people are realizing that they have the wrong bank. Having a big bank was not a good idea when it always seemed to be a great idea. It's like, it's a whole new world out there. So
it is. Yeah. And I actually got a funny email from one of my clients a couple of days ago, and she said, I never thought I'd tell you this, Gerilyn, but can you stop sending the information for at least a couple of days? Because I feel that, as soon as something comes across my plate, my job is to push it forward and make sure that everybody has access to it. And I said, yep, that's fine. If you want, we'll go back to, I'll do a once a week check-in. I just want to make sure that you have all the most up-to-date info, because it is too onerous for you as business owners to sit there and try to figure out from all of the different websites and all the information that's coming in, what's real, what's helpful, and what can I start to rely upon Because as dentists, let's face it, we're control freaks, right? We want to be in control of everything in our environment. That's not the case right now. So working with us, we're able to help you accelerate through that and get you to the point where using this roadmap to recovery and success is going to save you tons of time and decrease a lot of your stress. So Fred and I were talking a little bit about this earlier, and the importance of your emotional state right now is, I think, paramount. Always has been, but especially today. If you want to be an effective leader, you have to train yourself to first be in the best emotional state. From there, that's going to affect what you do, what your actions and your behavior is at that point, which is, of course, going to affect your final result. Now, keeping that in mind, I strongly encourage all of you to be super, super careful about what information you're letting into your brain right now, okay? I mean that make sure that the information sources that you're using are vetted and verifiable. I personally don't consider a group of people on social media who are alarmists a reliable information source. You know what I'm talking about. So what I tend to do is in the morning I get up, I watch the news for about 20 minutes. I go and do work. At lunch, I'll check in for about 10 to 20 minutes. And then at dinner, I check in for about 10 to 20 minutes. The reality is the situation is so fluid that if you had the television on for the 4 hours in between when I just checked in, the information is going to be different anyway. And I have not found one station that is sending out positive information at this point and positive thoughts. So I look at it like, shut off the news. Don't let yourself get mired in the misery. Spend that time instead. If you're not super busy with whatever you're doing for work or your family, spend that time going out, getting some fresh air, get some exercise, make sure that you're eating well. The great thing about, not being able to go to restaurants is that everyone's becoming a much more inventive and healthy cook. I'm finding, aren't you finding that, Fred? People are sharing recipes like crazy. Fred, you're muted. Okay, I don't know why he's muted, but okay, so it's just.
I'm sorry. What did you? I had a glitch on my side.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying that we were talking about the fact that everybody is eating more healthy and cooking more, and people are sharing recipes. It's like we're back in the 50s.
Yes, definitely. I've never eaten this healthy in my entire life. I'm eating
Right.
like 95% organic, cooking 95% of the meals myself. I actually went out to an In-N-Out burger about a week and a half ago, and it was incredibly unsatisfying to eat something that disgusting. It's just, which is very disheartening because I was really looking forward to it. But anyway.
Yeah, but so be careful about what you're putting into your body and your brain right now, because you need to keep your emotional state high and positive, because you have a lot of people that are depending on you, as you know. As a leader, you need to be asking yourself these questions constantly. Remember that your team is going to take their cue from how you relay your messages to them. What's your attitude? Is it one of confidence and calm, or is it spastic? And more than ever, our tone and our body language, especially once patients come into the office and we are fully garbed in our PPE, you have to start practicing that your tone is one of calm and reassuring and empathetic. And you have to make sure that your body language is welcoming still, because this may be the first time that patients that have been coming to you for years are going to be seeing you garbed up to this extreme. And I know when I was practicing, it was very common. I'd walk into the treatment room, patient would be there. They've already been chatting with the assistant for a bit. I come in, we have a little talk, I get them numb, we catch up a little bit, and I may go and do a hygiene check and then come back in. And then that's when my loops went on, my gloves went on, my mask went on. I wasn't wearing a head cover and a face shield and a gown. I used a lab coat, and I was changing those between every patient. We know that things are going to be quite different now. So we need to be much more sensitive to how we are delivering our messages. It is vitally important that you stay in touch with your team during this time. Did I break out again, Fred?
No, you're good.
Okay, perfect. I saw you unmute, so I thought you were coming on to tell me that I had clicked off. It's so important that you're staying in touch with your team at this time. If you're not yet back in the office, you should be having virtual team meetings every single week. It is important for your team to be able to interact with one another. Remember, these people work together side by side, 8 to 10 hours a day, 4 to 5 days a week. I guarantee you that, well, probably most of them are missing that connection with their team members. They're craving that connection. It also allows the doctor to deliver her message clearly and concisely, and then allow the team to discuss their fears, their concerns, and brainstorm about ideas about what are we going to do when we get back. Hey, I've been thinking about how we can have this part of the procedure work. Let's talk about that. You know, definitely more brains is a helpful thing here. Let people be creative. And in addition to doing your virtual team meetings every week, I would like every doctor to be calling each of their team members at least once a week, just for a quick check-in call, just to make sure they're doing okay, and to give them the privacy of discussing with you some of their personal issues that they may not feel comfortable discussing in front of the team. It's your job as their leader to be empathetic and supportive. I always try to remember the motto of the police department, which is to protect and serve. And that's what you have to do for your team and your patients at this time, and yourself. So opening day, for some of you, you've already been open. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because I bet that about 75% of the people that are on this webinar have already opened. But for those of you that haven't, or if you're just getting ready to, remember that depending upon when your shelter in order place is going to be lifted, as well as whatever the guidelines are from your state organizations, and it's going to be different everywhere as to what kind of treatment you can be providing. That's going to be one of the things that's going to determine your opening date. The other thing you need to think about is, do I have enough supplies on hand? Do I have enough PPE to take care of the patients that we're expecting to see in the next 2 to 4 weeks and 2 months out? We also have to think about, how are we going to bring our team back? Because if we're not going to be seeing the normal volume of patients, it doesn't make sense to bring your team back, all of your team, get them off their unemployment that they're most likely collecting, come back into the office, and then potentially have to lay them off again. So you want to be strategic in whom do you bring back when, and what is every person going to be doing. This is also why, even when you start back, you should still be having virtual meetings with your whole team, because your whole team is probably not going to be in the office for at least a few weeks. You still need to keep in touch with those team members who are not yet back in the practice. Keep them apprised of how things are going.
Now you went quiet on us. Hang on, Gerilyn.
Depending upon where he or she practices.
Okay, say that again.
Which part?
Go back 2 sentences. I can't say part because I didn't hear them.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the last thing you heard me say, Fred?
Fred.
That's very helpful. What I was saying is, let me think.
We heard, you know, you have virtual team meetings anyway.
Oh, right, because not everybody is going to be coming back to the practice from your opening day, right? Some of your team is going to still be at home collecting unemployment, and you're going to be bringing your team back in shifts. So that's why it's important for you still to keep in touch with the rest of the team, keep them apprised of how things have been going. How is the schedule filling up? What have you been finding as you're going through the days, so that they are still in the loop and they can have a better sense of certainty as to when they can start to come back. Did that come through okay?
Yep, that was great.
Okay, all right. This slide is illustrating that the most successful teams, they start with planning the end result already and then realizing that they're probably going to need to adjust it as they go, right? To use a football analogy, the coach's job is to get the team together, discuss what the play is, and make sure that everybody understands that. Once the team gets onto the field, though, the coach's job is kind of done. Now he's got to rely on the expertise and the training of his team that is out on the field. He needs to trust that they're going to evaluate what the opposing team is doing and then adjust as needed so that they can achieve their goal. And the pun is intended there. So know this too, when you go back, you're going to have to be more flexible than you ever have, because You know, we always say it may look great. Sometimes we would go in the morning, right? Look at the schedule. Well, that looks great on paper. How do you actually expect me to do that though? Right? Who here has ever had that conversation with their scheduling coordinator? So these are some of the things that we are talking about with our Fortune clients, and especially those that are involved with the 90-day Practice Recovery Acceleration Program. These are 5 steps to triage your schedule as you're getting back into your office. First is to triage your team. Can you hear me okay, Fred?
Yep. And
Okay.
I just had a thought though. I just wanted to say, because there may be a tendency on people's part to be a little bit worse at being no-shows, because now they have the little extra fear factor. It's like, you know what? It doesn't hurt that bad, or the pain went away or whatever. Maybe I can skip it. But I think we can take advantage of the fact that we are using these PPEs and we are projecting more. This is a surgical suite that you've reserved. I would really capitalize on that message to your patients. Take advantage of that and say, look, this isn't just something casual. You know, this isn't like you reserved the dinner at Bob's Big Boy or something like that. This is a surgical suite that you've made a reservation for, and we're here to take care of people. So I think you can adjust people's thinking to respect your schedule more, especially since you say, look, we have to do these things to make sure we have time to change in between each patient. So we need to know that you're coming, that exactly you is coming for this appointment. So it just occurred to me, and I wanted to inject it there because it's so relevant, right, to what you were talking about.
Absolutely, Fred. And that is, when we're talking about admin special teams, the reality is you've got to figure out how many of your admin is going to need to confirm your appointments, because for at least the time being, as Fred said, I would not rely on a confirmation via email or text. Those are great portals and have helped, productivity of practices immensely in the past. Right now, I would not want my doctors to think of an appointment as confirmed until someone on my team has talked to that patient, has gotten a 100% confirmation from that patient that they are planning to be there exactly at, whatever time it is, probably a few minutes early, because the other reason you want to have that conversation with them, not just getting a yes or no via text or email, is because, do you think your patients are going to have more questions for you right now than they ever did? Of course they are. It is the job of the team member to pre-frame what the new appointment is going to be like. And you need to do it confidently and calmly and almost kind of matter-of-factly, like, we take this really seriously. And as you know, we have always held infection control at the gold standard in our office. We're above the gold standard. We're platinum standard anyway. Are there a few things that are going to be different to improve the safety for this particular situation? Of course. And we've been practicing it and we've got it down. And here's what you need to know prior to coming into your appointment. This is what I need from you. This is what you can expect once you get to the office. This is what you can expect during your appointment. And this is what you can expect when you leave. There will be slight changes, all for your safety and our safety. And you just got to know that we've got it. But you want that patient to be able to ask any questions during that confirmation call, not have them worried about it to the point where they then do a no-show because they don't feel confident yet. And your admin should tell them, and please, any other things that pop into your head between now and your appointment time, please call the office. We're happy to talk you through it, because that's going to be very reassuring. You want to triage your schedule as best as possible. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you an example of, I know it may sound weird to think about scheduling to goal, but the reality is you can start to plan to schedule to goal depending upon what your guidelines are as to what kind of dentistry you can be doing at this point. Step 4 is triaging your patients. And that's not just what I said, which is making sure that everyone is 100% confirmed with a verbal conversation, but also start to think about how can you split your patients up into different categories. I would think your A category of patients are those who are in dire need of emergency treatment. And then right after that, your A- patients are those who are on the borderline of becoming an emergency patient. If they've got broken teeth, severe periodontal disease, rampant caries, any of those are people that I would be getting into the schedule as soon as possible. Your B patients may be those who are in temporaries for now and are waiting for their final restoration to be delivered, just for an example. And then your C patients are those who have elective treatment that, you know, can wait a little bit and or kind of get mixed into the schedule if you do end up having an opening. Because I would also say it's important to keep your last, you know, your immediate call list up to date too, just in case there are changes, because although patients are going to have more flexibility with their schedules the more they work from home, you're also going to have a bunch of them who are going to have less flexibility once their place of business opens up, because maybe their boss is going to tell them, hey, I need you boots on the ground in the office every single day. And that appointment that you had scheduled with your dentist 2 months ago has got to get rescheduled for down the line. So you need to really learn how to be flexible through all of this. Now, this is just one example of a possible schedule with one doctor and one hygienist. Those of you that have already been scheduling to goal, you're very familiar with this. If you haven't been doing it yet, it is something that we teach at Fortune, and I don't have time to get into detail about it on this webinar. But there are 3 important things that I want to make sure that you notice here. 1, there is an additional 10 minutes added to the beginning of each appointment and an additional 10 minutes added to the end of each appointment. Do you see those in the yellow there? These are inviolate. When your scheduling coordinator is building your schedule, she cannot overlap those, because with all the extra steps that we're going to be doing for sterilization and decontamination in between patients, your clinical team needs that time to turn the rooms over and make sure that they have time at the start of the appointment to answer any additional questions that your patient may have, and let your patient get used to seeing you both dressed up like Darth Vader, like we've seen, right? Your patients have to get comfortable with that. So build that time into the appointment. The second thing I want you to notice is that every appointment is staggered. The start and stop time is different for each of these appointments, right? That's twofold. One is so that you don't have a crush of patients entering and exiting at the same time, and you don't have your team crammed into sterilization at the same time. You don't want your clinical assistant and your hygienist finishing up and trying to get into sterilization at the same exact time and trying to figure out, how are we going to do this social distancing, and oh no, you bumped into my PPE and now I got to go change. So keep those appointments staggered. It'll make the flow much easier. And the third thing you may notice is that we've actually scheduled in doctor time for the hygienist appointment. Now, some of you may already be doing this, and if you are, bravo, that's fantastic. It makes your life so much easier when you plan your schedule like this. For those of you who haven't yet been doing it, it is the perfect time to implement this in your practice. I can tell you that I did this for years when I owned my practice, and my hygienists were so much happier, because instead of having to wait around for me to show up once they told me they were ready for their exam, and maybe I was knee deep in something in my treatment room, and I know that they're waiting for me and they're looking at their clock and they're running late now because I haven't even gotten in there yet. And then I fly in and we have our 10-minute conversation with the patient. I do my exam, and now I've messed up everybody's schedule. So if you plan for this at the start of the hygiene appointment, it is much easier to control the schedule. The other thing to think about is this. OSHA released guidelines last week, which said that if the dentist goes into the hygiene appointment, the prophy has not yet started, and the dentist had not started a restorative appointment. So think about that. That means that neither treatment room at that point has active aerosol in it, right? If the dentist goes in at the start of the hygiene appointment before the prophy and does an exam, he or she does not have to change out all of their PPE, just what touches the patient, which in hopefully every case should just be your gloves, which you would be changing anyway between patients, right? Because this donning and doffing of PPE, from my friends who are practicing, they tell me that it can become, very time consuming, not to mention expensive. So get as much life out of your PPE as you possibly can. And it just comes down to, again, planning ahead. How am I doing, Fred?
This is great, because it's they need to understand that it's like a whole new set of dance steps.
It
right?
is.
And you and give yourself, understand that it's going to take time to do it, and relax and accept that it's going to slow you down a little bit, but pretty soon it's going to be just like it used to be. You're going to streamline, and you're going to get your rhythm down, but relax for a couple of weeks and practice the dance steps.
Yep. And I think back to when I graduated dental school, and when I was in dental school, I think I was the first class when universal precautions had become mandatory. So there were seniors when I was a freshman who it was really the first time that all of them and all of our clinical instructors had to wear a mask, gloves, and goggles. And, you know, I used to crack up because I was thinking, well, who wouldn't want to do that? I don't want to stick my fingers in somebody's mouth without gloves on. That's disgusting. But I remember talking to especially some of the instructors who were significantly older, and they really had a hard time adapting to just what I considered, you know, normal, because that's how I learned. So give yourself some time, be patient with yourself and your team as you get used to this. But like everything else, once you do it more frequently and practice it, it's going to become easier and easier. So when it comes to your supply inventory, I know we're harping on PPE because of course that's very important. Don't forget about some of your other supplies that are perishable. I'm assuming you're going to need anesthetic and, you know, possibly bonding agent for a number of your patients for that first month or two. Well, if you've already been closed for 2 months and you may not be opening for a month or two, there are some practices that aren't planning to open for at least another 1 to 2 months. Make sure when you're checking your supplies that you're not only ensuring that you have sufficient PPE on hand, but also that all of your perishables are going to be usable by the time you get back into the practice. Obviously work with your primary sales rep on this, but you also need to have the conversation with them that, hey, I know the supply chains are really tight right now, and you have to be understanding if I have to go elsewhere for the time being to get in what I need, because I've found some other avenues that can supply me with what I need. You need to have this conversation with your team. Depending upon the kind of practice you have, will determine also with your guidelines from your state and the national organizations as to what extreme you're going to go to with your PPE. Because of that, I highly recommend that you have a dress rehearsal day. If you haven't already been open, plan a dress rehearsal day with your team. And I want all your team to be there, not just your special team, which are the ones that are going to come back initially and immediately, because everybody needs to get comfortable with this, because I truly do believe this is going to be the new normal of infection control standards. So you better start getting used to it now. Practice not only putting on your PPE, but my friends who are practicing say that the taking off, the doffing of the PPE is the most stressful part, because you have to be so careful, and it's very strict procedures as to what gets removed when, so that you don't potentially contaminate yourself or somebody else. I would rather have you practice that with your entire team a few times before you start doing it for patient treatment. You also want to practice walking around the office of what's it going to feel like when we're socially distancing in the office, not bumping into each other when we're walking down the hallway, and have each person in the team play patient so that the clinical team can, you know, sort of hang over and see, okay, well, when I'm doing this procedure, oh, wow, you know, okay, this face shield feels a little goofy, and I guarantee you're probably going to knock each other in the face at least once or twice with the face shields, because I remember what it was like the first time I wore my loops. You totally lose your depth perception, right? And all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, hi, how are you? So practice that with your team. You want to get comfortable with it now before you start seeing your patients, because you want to project confidence, right? Okay, I'm just going to talk briefly about this because I know that our Fortune clients have been doing this, and I hope that some of you have as well. Certainly during the shutdown, we have been stressing to our clients that you should be reaching out to at least 50 patients a day. Now, before you all groan, because I can hear you even though you're all muted, I know what you're all thinking and saying. Wow, that's a lot of people I have to contact. Okay, if we break it down and say that we want you to call 25 people and email or text 25 people. If you call 25 people, how many are going to actually pick up the phone? What do you think? Maybe 5 or 6? Which means that you're leaving a voicemail for your patient. They may or may not call you back, but you reached out and touched them in a good way. And these conversations are not, I am confirming your appointment. They are not collection calls. These are, hey, Fred, it's Dr. Alfe. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. What's going on with you? And if you feel like that patient is really down in the dumps, because people are dealing with a lot of depression right now, try to help interrupt their pattern and ask them positive questions and uplifting questions like, well, so tell me during this time, what was the most fun thing that you were doing with your family? Or if you're living by yourself, what I loved on that video, Fred, that we showed earlier with Dawn's one of Dawn's teams that one of them said, tell me about your new hobbies, because everybody is starting to either read more or do more things at home. So tell me a little bit about that. Talk to them about what's going on well in your life and let them talk. This isn't the time for us to have a back and forth about, well, here's what I was doing during that time. You know what? It's not about us. It's about them. So let them tell their story. And for your other patients, you want to send out 25 texts or emails. It's easy to build up a template for that. And then just put 1 or 2 personal lines in it. But just to be able to reach these patients during a time when everyone is feeling isolated is so important. So about a month ago, I was holding another webinar and I was talking about this, and a friend of mine was on the webinar. And I got a text message from him 2 days later, and he said, hey, Jer, I just want to let you know, love the webinar, lots of great information. I got to tell you, the one thing I did that I had been thinking about doing and hadn't done yet was I got off my butt and I ended up calling and emailing about 30 patients. And I could not believe what the response was. Everybody could not believe that I was just calling them just to say hi and to check on them, because they were saying, wow, you know, my doctor's office didn't do that. My chiropractor's office didn't do that. No one is checking on these people aside from their immediate family and their closest friends. If you're their dentist who's doing that, do you think that that's going to resonate for them for the rest of their lives? What do you think? The answer is yes.
I heard a resounding silent yes.
Is that internal marketing that is just, you know, super easy? And now I'm also going to, you know, play devil's advocate here, because I know that some of you are already working. You're already back to work. And I know what you're saying, Gerilyn. I don't have time to do that. I'm seeing patients now. Okay. All right. I'll let you off the hook a little bit. You only have to contact 10 patients on the days that you see other patients in the office, and then take the bulk of them and catch up a little bit on the weekends. This is also the time for you to rely on your team to help you with this. When everybody was completely shut down, we were stressing that the doctor should be doing most of this, but the reality is if you're starting back to work, your team should be helping you with this. And especially, I would be asking for volunteers from my team members who weren't yet coming back into the office. See who is willing to step up and help support the team, because that's the person that I'm probably gonna make sure I bring back a lot faster than maybe I had originally been planned.
Well, and let's not forget that you have PPP money, virtually all of you. You're going to need to use it. So if you don't bring those people in, it's going to turn into a loan. There's stuff they can be doing in the practice that is not necessarily clinical. Something like this is way beyond clinical. This is re-cementing your practice when patients could be drifting away just because they've been out of contact. I know we want to talk about teledentistry, but I don't want to interrupt you because it fits into this. You'll get to it, but it fits into this as well.
Absolutely. So the 2 types of support that you have to provide for your team as their leader right now is cultural and practical. Okay, cultural is the things that I've already been talking about: being a strong leader, being a calm, collected, and cool leader, making sure that you're projecting confidence to your team, that you have a sense of certainty, whether you do or not. But there are some things that you can be certain about, and so focus on those. And also make sure that you are reassuring and compassionate with your team, because everybody is feeling very different degrees of depression or anxiety at this time, and it's important that we recognize that. You also want to give your team practical support. When I was talking about the potential cash sources, one of them is freeing up your cash by, hey, if you can defer some tax payments. The IRS has deferred their tax payments until July 15th, I believe, right, Fred? Is it July 15th?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's money in the bank. Now, don't spend it on a new car, because if you didn't need a new car, but talk to your team about all of the things that you're doing as well. Have you talked to your landlord about deferring rent, or your mortgage holder about deferring mortgage payments? If you've gone through that, talk to your team about doing it as well, especially if they're still collecting unemployment for a couple of months. Can they defer any of their credit card or car loan payments? And then the last thing I want to talk about is childcare, because I know that a number of you must have team members who have small children. I don't know any city or state where the kids are planning to go back to school to finish out this school year. If there is, I'm not aware of it. So these working parents are dealing with, not only are their kids home from school for the duration. They also don't have their safety net of what they may have used to fill that gap between school time, which is summer camp or childcare or any other thing that normally kids would be mashed together in, is not going to be available to these working parents. So let's start to get creative about this. Could you talk to your team and say, I know that there are 4 or 5 of you that have kids at home. What if you formed a support group and each of you volunteered one day to watch everyone else's kids? Now you're going to have to obviously make sure that whoever's doing that has the room in their house and they can, you know, keep it clean enough. Some offices are so large that they actually are taking one portion of the office and using that as their childcare area, where each of the team members is volunteering one day to watch the kids. If you have a really small office and a very small team and you're thinking, I can't possibly do that, I only have 1 assistant and 1 hygienist and 1 admin. Well, maybe you've got a friend who's down the road who also has a small team and they're dealing with the same issue. So maybe you could pool your resources. The important thing is that you need to let your team know, I've been thinking about this. I'm worried, not worried, I'm thoughtful and concerned about your well-being as well as your families. This is something I thought might work. What do you all think about it? And then throw it to them. Let's talk about this during our virtual team meeting and see what they come up with, because once they start giving you input, they've taken ownership of it and they're going to be the ones to figure out the solution for that.
Yeah, I think you can see how strong a coach somebody like Gerilyn would be just from the experience of being a dentist for so many years and running a practice, as well as a great business head and a business degree. But Gerilyn, I want to make sure we have time for questions. So I'm going to urge you to not give all of the knowledge that you have, because it's vast knowledge, but some of it is, is individual coaching that's really important. So, and now I'm going to stop interrupting you.
Good point. That's okay. All right, so I can quickly go through most of the rest of these slides. So fee schedules, it's a great time for you to be reviewing your fee schedule. If you didn't update your fee schedule this past January, now's the time to do it. Make sure that you fall in whichever percentile you're comfortable having your practice fall in compared to the other ones in your area. And also know that the ADA did release guidance to the dental insurance companies, imploring them to cover PPE fees. We're talking to our clients and almost all of them are comfortable having a separate broken out PPE fee. It's anywhere from $15 upwards. It's going to depend on your practice in your area, but it's going to be similar to what those oil surcharges showed up on all of our bills back in the 80s when the oil prices were through the roof. And now we're going to be looking at this as, yes, it's the cost of doing business, but it isn't something that only the dentist should be bearing, because it isn't everyone's best interest to be able to provide these services for the patients. You also want to be really studying your team at this point. When I was at the Chicago Midwinter back in February, which seems like ages ago, when we were all crammed into rooms together and I probably shook hundreds of hands and hugged dozens of people, and yet I'm still COVID-19 negative in my antibody test. But I was talking to so many dentists and there were 2 overwhelming themes. Because the economy was so good and unemployment was so low, a number of dentists were, for lack of a better word, complaining about subpar team members. And they couldn't fire them because there's no way they could find anybody to fill that position. And they didn't even want to constructively criticize those team members because they would just up and quit, go down the road and go work somewhere else, get more money and have less responsibility. I don't think that's the situation anymore, is it? So if you have team members that have been on the bubble, now is the time to say, you know what, I'm thinking that probably that person doesn't need to come back. And I can guarantee you that that space that's going to open up is going to probably be quickly and easily filled with an amazing team member who's now looking for a different place because maybe her office isn't reopening.
You need, I say this over and over again, but everybody has to be pulling in the same direction to create a remarkable practice. That's twice as true now, if not 5 times more true. People are going to reveal their true colors to you now and take action.
Yep. So I'll just run through this quickly. This is how to schedule and how to bring your staff back in real time. And I've been talking about this somewhat already. So we recommend that the hygienists own their own schedule. Let them build their schedule. They know the particulars of each patient who's going to come in. Some patients only need 50 minutes for a prophy and others need 70. The hygienist knows that best. Let them be in charge of it. You want to book one column at a time. And for each dentist, you're going to have one assistant. When you get busy enough and you add a restorative column, that's when you bring on another assistant. And when the hygienist starts to get busy enough and or you're booking out so far that you realize, okay, it's time to bring in another hygienist, that's when you add that person in. When you get to the point, if your facility is large enough that you can add your third restorative column, that's when you're going to bring your associate dentist back, as well as a clinical assistant and one admin. So I found it really interesting when all this COVID stuff happened. Over the following 6 to 8 weeks, I've been talking to a lot of friends, some in dentistry and a lot that aren't in dentistry. And I found that people are falling into two categories. One is they're bored out of their minds, or they are working like crazy people. Well, we at Fortune, we are falling into that second category. We have been working like crazy people, trying to take all of our knowledge base and really hone it so that we can help our doctors get through this as quickly and painlessly as possible. We took our 110 coaches and all that cumulative brain trust knowledge and broke down into task forces, and we created a clinical task force for operative and hygiene. As far as team culture, leadership, business systems, and patient communication, that's what Fortune's been doing for 30 years. So we've got that. The important thing for you to know is that if you're struggling with any of these things, this is the perfect time for us to come in and start to help you with that. Now, one of the things that we're really proud of through this pandemic is that we are lucky enough that out of the 110 coaches that we have at Fortune, 8 of us are either retired or practicing dentists. And so we formed our task force and we came up with this 20-page clinical and safety guide. It's available to all of our Fortune clients. If you are part of the Practice Recovery Acceleration Program, that's part of the materials that we share with you. And for all of you that are on this webinar, we are also going to allow you the link so that you can download this. I'll give you the website toward the end of this so that you can write that down so that you can get this, because the doctors that I've been working with have told me that this has been worth its weight in gold, because we broke down every single potential thing that you're going to be considering when you're going back to practicing. We talk about PPE, we talk about how to check in and check out patients, what kind of conversations you should be having prior to the appointment. And the only places that we use for our references were vetted and verifiable organizations, the ADA, OSHA, HIPAA, and CDC. So you can trust what we were talking about. So Fred, with this teledentistry, why don't you jump in here and cover this? Because this is another one of our guides that's available to our clients, but you definitely know a ton about teledentistry.
Well, yeah, and very quickly, a lot of people in dentistry thought, well, you know, you have to see the patient. And I think what has been demonstrated in this time is you could see a lot of patients through teledentistry and triage them for emergencies and actually not have to see them immediately, but take care of them. Maybe they just need a prescription. You get to decide what they need right then, but the patients feel cared for. And dentists are going to find that this could turn into actually a marketing platform where you can do everything you would do like the patient were walking in the office in terms of getting the information and all of that, and even billing them. But also you're going to be able, if you want to screen a patient for Invisalign or veneers or something like that, you can do a teledentistry visit. You can do evening check-ins with teledentistry. Think about the difference between a Zoom call or a FaceTime call and a telephone call. Now that can become incorporated into your practice. I see this as an incredible long-term marketing tool, but actually a streamlining of the practice to see the patients that you have to see, and also tell the patients, look, maybe we don't need to see you. Let me get on the phone for 5 minutes with you and see what's going on. Oh, your son chipped his tooth. Yeah, but you know what? The root isn't exposed. we can take care of that tomorrow morning. Nobody has to come in at 9 o'clock tonight. So very quickly, this guide is very comprehensive about it, but think about it from a streamlining as well as a marketing standpoint to incorporate this into your practice.
Yep, excellent. Thank you, Fred. We also came up with this communication guide, which again, I feel that Fortune is one of the strongest players out there in training our doctors and their teams on how to more elegantly and effectively communicate with one another and their patients. And so we took what we already knew and we just honed it for this particular time in all of our lives. The reality is that the better you are at communicating is you're going to be much more effective. As Fred said, every single thing that you do with a patient is marketing. And I can't state it enough that you can be the best clinician in the world, but if your patient doesn't feel good about you and your team when they're in your office, they're not going to do any work with you. So communication is especially more important than ever. So we're getting near the end, and I want to just talk about this particular Chinese word. For a lot of you that know it, the Chinese word for crisis is made up of the two characters that represent danger and opportunity. And I know that it's easy to focus only on the danger and the risk and all the things that we're losing out on right now. A lot of people, however, are focusing on the opportunity. And the ones that are focusing on the opportunity are realizing that there are going to be some amazing things that are going to be available to you if you keep your wits about you, keep your outlook positive, and expect that the best is going to happen. One of these is it's going to be easier than ever for some of you who want to grow your practice to do so. If you have colleagues or friends that are in my age group, I'm in my early 50s, and there may be a lot of them out there who were thinking about retiring in 5 to 10 years. But now this hit and they decided, heck, you know what? I want to still do dentistry. I just don't want to run the practice anymore. So there are going to be opportunities for you to merge practices with other doctors or acquire practices in a very easy and streamlined way that's a win-win for both. And as always, these are things that you can talk about with us at Fortune, as well as your own attorney and accountant, but keep your eyes open because there are going to be tons of ways for you to grow your practice here. So I just want to end with reviewing the 90-day practice recovery acceleration program that Fortune has developed. I know that I've been talking a lot about the features of it throughout this. I want to just make sure that you know, in addition to all the materials, all the guides that Fred and I were talking about, all the checklists and timelines and scheduling protocols, etc., we also include in this 12-week program a weekly live webinar with your coach, where depending upon what the practice needs are, it may be one-on-one with the doctor, it may be incorporating the team as well, where we roll out for you the checklist of here's what you need to be doing for the coming week, and discussing what we've been learning that week, talking to you about what your challenges have been and what's working well and where do I need to support you. In addition to the webinar with the doctor and or the team, the doctor also gets a one-on-one coaching call once a week with your personal coach. We're also going to be monitoring your financials, checking how your scheduling is going, and just seeing what other support you need from us. Fortune is so dedicated to supporting and helping our dental community that we've rolled out this unprecedented program for only $49.95. $9.95 is due when you sign the agreement, and we are deferring payment of the balance for 90 days. There's no obligation past that, but of course, we know, we feel, we hope that you're going to see how beneficial coaching is to you and you'll want to continue on with us. So if you're interested in this, and this is also, you'll go to this link on the website, fortunemanagement.com/recovery. And once you enroll there, you'll be able to download that clinical and safety guide that I was referring to earlier. You know, one of the basic 5 human needs is certainty or security. And I think we can all agree that none of us are really feeling very certain or secure at this point. Sometimes it's really helpful to sit down and make a list of the things that you can control. And obviously we're not going to go through this now, but I want you to dedicate 5 to 10 minutes of your quiet time where you can sit down and make a list of all the things you can control.
I know that. What, Gerilyn?
Yeah.
Let's do it in the chat room. Okay. Let's really quickly. think about the things that you can control. If you want, just pop open the chat room, because this way we'll see everybody's. And just think of a thing that is in your control, because there's plenty of things that are out of control. You know, I'm gonna put in you know, what I eat
Yep.
in the chat room, and you know, what comes out of my mouth, what goes in and what comes. Those are my two things. What comes out of my mouth and what goes in my mouth.
You know, a big one for me, Fred, that I came across a number of years ago is what I say yes to and what I say no to.
Yeah, so jump into the chat room. Just post one thing. I know you've been in passive mode. We're trying to see if we can. Yeah, so what I think of other people. You know, how we respond to the situation. You know, there's two things. Somebody put it really well, and I'm forgetting how it goes. The weather's bad. It's raining and the weather's bad. Okay, right? So those are two things. One of them is objective and one of them's subjective. Okay, raining isn't necessarily bad. We made it bad, right? We do that with all sorts of stuff. Personal time schedule is in your control. Who gets your time is in your control. Anyway, what I really want to do is make sure that just, you know, Jessica Rhodes actually said, if I exercise, if I meditate, my schedule, she just rattled off a list of,
Yep.
of what's in her control. All these things are in your control. And of course, Phil is trying to convince us that all that rain they get in the Northwest is good, right? Yeah, we know it's great. Everything's moist and green. You're right, Phil. So let's. I'm trying to control your screen. I think the next thing is questions. Do people have questions? You can pop those into the chat bot as well, the chat panel. And I just want to say that you know, I've recently met Gerilyn, and in terms of being able to really spend time with her, and I think somebody would be so lucky to have her as a coach, that it makes me want to almost move to Chicago and become a dentist. If I had a time machine. If I had a time machine, that's probably what I would do. But then I would have to bring her back with me. To, you know, it's complicated. So I don't think I'm going to be able to pull it off. But you know, Gerilyn, you're just going to be a real gift to the people that are wise enough to take advantage of your years of experience, as well as all of the tools that Fortune makes available to you. And I think when you hear what Fortune does, you immediately absorb it and say, yes, that I can incorporate that and I can teach that. So
well, thank you, Fred. And you know, the other thing that I didn't mention, which I always do try to talk to each of my clients about, is that I was a coaching client for 20 years. I owned my practices for 25 years, and for 20 of those years, I had a coach. So I can speak from both sides of the perspective of what you can get out of it, what you should expect from your coach, and knowing what it allowed me to do, the support that I got and the forced accountability, because I think I'm a pretty driven person, but let's face it, all of us come home from a long work day, you want to just put your feet up and watch some bad television. But you know what, if you know you got a call with your coach the next day and she's expecting you ran those reports, before you put your feet up and watch some bad television, you're going to get off your butt and go to your computer and review your reports so that you're accountable the following day to that person. And all of us need that at some point in our lives. And, you know, like I said, our job is sometimes cheerleader and sometimes butt kicker. But I feel so fortunate no pun intended, to be part of Fortune. And, you know, as Fred said, it's been fairly recently that he and I have become closer friends, and I've always followed him. I've read his books, and I know what a gift he's been to dentistry, and definitely a lot of the things that I learned from him helped my practice improve. So I'm just as grateful to have him in our life as he is. So.
Well, we don't have any questions, so clearly you covered a tremendous amount of ground for them. No, I think you did. I think this was very comprehensive, and it helps people know that there's a lot to be thinking about, but also that there is help out there, right down to the minute details. Like, you're trying to do a cash flow analysis, Gerilyn's going to sit there with you and do it line by line, and that's, a lot of people don't even know how to do one, or how to do one right. So there's doing it and doing it right, but you got to start by doing it. But why not do it right the first time? And right now, more than ever, with all of the way things are coming and going, and people coming back to work gradually, and you don't know if there's going to be a surge of patients and then a lull of patients, cash flow analysis is going to be critical, along with, you know, the exact right verbiage. That's why Fortune put together each one of those books, those guides, was for all of that precise detail. There's a right way to say stuff. There's a most efficient way to do stuff. Why reinvent the wheel? You know, there's you know, the only expensive coaching is the coaching you don't get. A coach should be free. A coach should pay for themselves 5 or 10 times over. And that's what I see. The only people that suffer are the people that don't want to listen. It's like they're uncoachable. It's like that I can figure it out myself, or I want to. What I see, the dentists I see that are going to suffer right now are the ones that go, it should be this way. It shouldn't change. The government should do this. The ADA should do this. People should do this. If you've got should in the sentence, you've got to ask yourself why. And if anybody else cares that that's what you think should happen. Okay, maybe we should ignore this virus and open all the stores, but we're not going to, because despite the fact that, you know, that maybe there's some evidence that this isn't as contagious as we thought, there's a lot of dead people. So we're not going to ignore that. There's, you know, so it's, you know, it's a confusing time, but, you know, do it with a guide. This is when the last time you want to try to, you know, map your way through the forest is, you know, when it's this dark.
Burning.
Yeah.
When it's burning. Because,
Yeah.
you know, the two things that were never taught in dental school, I think they're getting better, but certainly when I went to school, and I have a classmate on, Dill, hey Dill, shouting out to you. We were never taught business skills, and we weren't taught leadership skills. And if you want to have a successful practice, you have to be masters of those two things, in addition to your clinical skills. And what we find is that a lot of dentists, they've been out of school for 5 years or so. They're getting their clinical skills under their belts, and there is a good percentage of them that all of a sudden realize, hey, you know what? I need help building my business. I got the dentistry down. I've got to just get the business in order and be a better leader to my team.
And dentistry is a phenomenal business when operated properly. It's a very profitable, satisfying. I mean, you get to do one of the noblest things. I mean, think about it. In your life, everything that happens, that you experience, happens because you have a body. And in dentistry, what you do is help to keep that body functioning at a better and better level, so that their life experience is richer. That's an amazing thing to get to do every day. And that's my last word on it.
All right, so Fred and I just want to end with the law of attraction. And some of you may be familiar with this. To boil it down, it's basically, if you expect that the worst is going to happen, that's what you're going to get. And if you expect that the best is going to happen, that's what you're going to get. Now, this isn't some sort of like touchy-feely thing, pie in the sky thing. I truly do believe in this, and I'll give you a real quick example. When I moved to Chicago about 20 years ago, I was working as an associate in someone else's practice. And at that point, I decided, you know what? I really just want to do my own thing and build my dream practice at this point. So I contacted a real estate broker, found a place, but I didn't have a loan in place yet. I had identified my space, but I didn't have the money. And I thought this was back in 2004, so it was probably going to be fairly easy to find a bank to give me the money that I needed. Well, at the time, I was also teaching with the Hornberg Group. And one of the patients of one of my students worked for a bank. And not only did she work for a bank, her bank specialized in funding startup practices for dentists. So because I took the time to talk to this patient during the 2 weekends that she was at this course and learn about her as a person, she reached out to me, got me in touch with her loan officer, and within a week, I had the paperwork signed and my money was funded. So you know, it's not just sitting here wishing and hoping that something great is going to happen. You have to do your part too. But if you go into these situations with a positive attitude and do the work, the universe will provide for you.
Yes, the law of attraction has action built into it.
Yep. Awesome.
Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you so much, Gerilyn. I mean, the person I attracted that I'm very excited about was Gerilyn, because I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to be lecturing for the next 6 months. And this is my first lecture of the COVID year, so I'm very excited. So thank you all for your time, and we hope to see you face to face sometime. But get some help. Get some help now from us.
Absolutely. And thanks so much, Fred, for all your help and your experience and wisdom with all of this. Thank you to everybody. I'm sure some of you were kind of having dinner as you were watching. So if there's anything you missed, feel free to get in touch with me. That's my email address there. Drop me a line. And if you want to know more about what Fortune can do to help you through this challenging time, I'm more than happy to have a chat with you. So take care of yourselves, take care of your families, stay healthy, stay safe, and stay positive.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.